2 weeks ago, I sat here in this very chair, and I said, okay, Spencer Rattler has had 10 starts over 2 seasons of work. He has got 2 weeks to hang on to this starting quarterback job with the New Orleans Saints. At that point, I was not suggesting that Spencer Rattler was a failure, that he was a lost cause, that he had no chance of improving and becoming the Saints franchise quarterback. I wasn't even blaming them for getting off to an 0-4 start. Like, I really wasn't concerned with 0-4. At that point, I was looking at the product on the field, which was very vanilla, very dink and dunk, not very productive, wasn't winning games. It was just safe, comfortable, and fine. And safe, comfortable, and fine is okay for a rookie that you just drafted with nothing behind him. When you're talking about a guy who's had 10 starts and has a second-round pick right behind him, at some point after 10 starts, I'm going to need to see a little bit more than safe and unproductive. So I said 2 weeks ago, you're playing the Giants, you're playing the Patriots in the Dome. You got 2 weeks to show me something, or I'm going to Shough. Like, that was my opinion at that point. And I stand by that today. And now you look at the last 2 weeks, and with the new information I have, new opinion on the matter is you absolutely stick with Spencer Rattler, who is showing you something as the Saints starter. It's not great. It's not eye-opening, but there are absolutely positively strides being made for Spencer Rattler at this point. Ross Jackson's piece on LouisianaSports.net lays this out wonderfully. So I'm stealing his information here, but it goes right in line with the segment I knew I was going to do today because I gave that ultimatum independent of anything Ross had written 2 weeks ago on this show. But Ross just happened to go exactly in the lane I was going to drive in, so I'll take his stuff from LouisianaSports.net. Weeks 1 through 4, Spencer Rattler, yards per attempt, 5.2. That's tied for 30th in the NFL, yards per attempt. That completely lines up with what you were watching on the field, just a bunch of swing passes, dump-offs, check downs, nothing exciting, nothing very productive. Air yards per pass attempt, 7.1, 23rd in the NFL. You can win in the NFL being very safe. You can't win in the NFL when you never hit the big play. And the Saints were the only team in the NFL to that point that had not hit a big play in the air. The only team. Well, then you look at the last 2 weeks where I said, Spencer, I need to see something. And you've seen something. Yards per attempt over the last 2 weeks, 7.9. That's tied for 10th in the NFL, from 30th to 10th. Net yards per attempt, he was 30th in that stat, tied for 8th, 7.2. 30th to 8th. And then you go air yards per pass attempt. He went from 7.1 up 7.4, but you're talking about 5-spot jump. It's not huge, but it's 5 spots. But it's getting better. It's improving. And you saw the big play to Shaheed down the right sideline 2 weeks ago, and you saw the big play to Olave to start the game on Sunday for 53 yards on the Saints' first snap. You're starting to see something. And what I really liked about the throw to Olave, it was fractionally underthrown, but there was a little bit of pressure. He stepped up and then got behind it and put the ball up in the air. There was good pocket awareness, good pocket movement, the correct read, the proper throw. It wasn't right on the money, but it was everything right up to that point. And I feel like Spencer Rattler has earned himself significant more time. The bye week is 3 weeks away. Perhaps that's an opportunity. If you don't see more growth from here over the next 3 weeks, because you feel like you want to get a look at Shough, but you don't want to stunt growth just for a look. If I see the same growth over the next 3 weeks that I saw over the past 2 weeks, now all of a sudden you're really getting somewhere. Spencer Rattler has never looked overmatched on the NFL field in terms of he can't move well enough. He can't make that throw. He can't do this. The game's too fast. It was just too safe, in my opinion. And there's reason for that. You don't want to just throw a green player to the wolves. but you've got to break out of that shell at some point. And I feel like you're seeing it. It's not explosive. It's not something that's just, boom, it's completely different overnight, but it's those baby steps. It's kind of the same thing I was talking about with LSU in the previous segment. This is just bigger stage and a far better level of play. So, again, I don't feel like this is a necessary thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. The odds that Spencer Rattler becomes a Pro Bowl quarterback who leads the Saints to multiple playoff berths and a deep run in the playoffs that results in getting to a Super Bowl, like the odds of him becoming that are not very good because they're not very good for all the quarterbacks in the NFL. I remind you, Josh Allen's played in exactly none Super Bowls. Okay? So it's really hard to get to that. And we're all kind of still considering Rattler like next in line. It was Breeze, and then whatever was between that, and then it was Carr. That was a failure, and then this. And you're still close enough to Breeze where everyone's kind of grasping for that, right? And that's not fair. But you're trying to find the next guy. And he doesn't look like a guy right now, but it's still not to the point where I'm going to rule it out. I'm not suggesting you have to rule it out to go to Shough, but I need to see a plateau or a drop-off. Or I need to see a group around him that doesn't believe. And I don't think you're even close to that. We'll talk to Sharif Ishak an hour from now, and I'll get his thoughts on that. But, like, I see a team that's playing hard. I see a team that likely feels like he's improving. I know you've got a coach that believes he's improving. Kellen Moore talked about that yesterday. This is a quote in Ross's piece. Kellen Moore of Spencer Rattler says, I thought his pocket movement was phenomenal throughout the entire game. The first play was a great example of him subtly moving in the pocket, giving ourselves an opportunity to make that play. He had a really good scramble to Alvin on 3rd and 3, 4, somewhere in that range. You're talking about a coach who's seeing some things that he likes from a quarterback, and that's his position. It's not like Dennis Allen is saying that. Kellen Moore is saying that. A guy who won a ton of games in college, played the position in the NFL, coached it in the NFL, and now is quarterback's coach into a head coach. Offensive coordinator between that, obviously. And so he's going to take notes and have a tougher grading scale for quarterbacks than some other coaches that might be former special teams guys or defensive coaches or whatever the case may be. So ultimately, I gave the ultimatum. I've got that 2 weeks worth of information. I felt like when I gave the ultimatum, it was likely I would sit here and say, hey, it's time for Shough. I don't believe that right now. It is not time for Tyler Shough. I still think ultimately you're going to give him a look at some point, but you don't have to do that right now. You've got a lot of time in front of you. It's only mid-October. You've got a bye week that's significantly in front of you, considering that some teams have already had a bye. Like yours is still 3 weeks away. It's a later bye after 10 weeks. You've got enough real estate to keep Spencer Rattler moving. And I'm not going to napalm some development just because I took a guy in the second round. This is a difficult situation for Kellen Moore to inherit that you've got to handle very delicately. And the reason you were going to go with Spencer, one of the reasons I think it made sense to go with Spencer Rattler to start this thing was it would be easier to go from Rattler to Shough than it would be to go from Shough to Rattler. And you don't have to make that call right this second. I think now, with new information to go forward and make a prognostication on this quarterback spot, that I feel like now, I still think it will be, I still think it's going to be likely that Shough starts multiple games this year. Because I think it's likely that Rattler doesn't take a meteoric rise. But right now, I'm not upsetting that apple cart. I think you stay where you are. You continue to move forward. Kellen Moore says that all the time, regardless of what he may be thinking or what the discussions are internally. I think that's where the Saints are right now. And it's exciting and fun to go to the high quarterback draft pick, and the Saints never get to do that. Saints fans never get to do that. And it's one of the great hope-filled aspects of being an NFL fan is, could this guy be the next quarterback? And when you've got a quarterback that lost all his games last year and is a mid-round pick, he doesn't quite get the same perception of hope that the second-round pick does. But right now, he's earned the right to move forward and to continue to be the starting quarterback for this team. I'll reassess things probably in 3 weeks, depending on how things go. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not that married to tying this to the win-loss record. I just want to see how it looks. I'm going to need Chris Olave to make some catches instead of have the ball hit off his hands. I'm going to need the ground game to be a little bit better than it was. In that ecosystem we talk about to develop quarterbacks needs to continue to progress. But Spencer Rattler, with my ultimatum, I'm sure he was very concerned about, by the way, with my ultimatum saying, hey, you got 2 weeks to prove something, I think he did. And I think you move forward with Spencer Rattler as your quarterback here for the foreseeable future. Tyler Shough may get his shot this year, but not right now. I think it's Spencer Rattler's team. Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.